Mike, how am I sounding?
You sound real good.
Thanks, Mike.
Da-da-da-da, here he comes.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition. Hey, how are you, Mike?
I'm doing good, man. Nice to see you.
Good to see you, man. Another day hotboxing.
I would say so. You have a great guest today.
Got an awesome guest today. You know, Mike, people come in here, our guests come in here, and it's always amazing to see them with you because you're such a legend.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
And today, I think our guest is of that same ilk. He's got that dragon's blood demigod.
I don't know about that.
Yes, you do, man. Dale Earnhardt Jr., everybody. Thanks for coming, man.
No, I'm excited about this, man. I was looking forward to meeting Mike and being on the show. So I've been a big fan of his all my life, it seems like, man. But
Time goes by.
a long time, yeah. So it's gonna be fun. Let's do this. I got a podcast of my own, so it's always fun to kind of come on other people's podcasts and see how they do things. And you guys got a great setup.
Thanks, man.
You ever drive against Jeff Gordon?
I used to, yeah.
Yeah. How was that?
He was a good guy. He was fun.
Yeah.
He was good. He was hard to beat. Yeah. So I know a lot of people recognize Jeff, and he was kind of mainstream. He was in New York and L.A.
For sure.
And, yeah.
You're pretty mainstream.
Recognizable name. Yeah. My dad was a big deal. And
That's for sure.
So that kind of got
The
me.
Intimidator.
Yes, right.
I love that, dude.
I love that Mike Tyson knows his nickname.
Hell yeah, bro.
Yeah,
See?
with the glasses.
See what I'm talking about?
Seen with the glasses on, looking at people,
Yeah. So,
I love that.
psyching them out.
I love that. Also, in the studio, we've got one of your biz partners,
Yeah, Mike Davis.
Mike Davis.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good,
Hey,
man.
Mike.
All right. Hey,
And
thanks
you-
for having us.
And you co-host Dale's podcast with him.
Yeah, we do the Dale Jr. download every
Dale
week.
Jr. Download.
That's right, yeah.
What do you guys hit on that?
Basically, we'll talk a little bit about the race or whatever's going on in the sport. But otherwise, we have a lot of, businesses and things that we got going on. We might talk about that. Pop culture, a little bit of pop culture in there. Just
If there's a
kinda-
big fight from the weekend, we'll
Yeah.
talk about that.
Yeah,
Nice.
so I'm a big boxing fan, so we'll talk about boxing if there's a big fight or something like that every once in a while.
Sweet, man.
Whatever the hell we want to
Whatever
do.
we
is
want to
really
talk about.
What we're trying to say.
That's the great thing about podcasts, and that's the great thing. I think people love podcasts because it's a conversation.
Yeah.
It's a real conversation.
For sure.
It's not in front of an audience or we almost don't even think about the cameras being here, and they're not even doing anything as far as we know.
Yeah.
So it's, you can just have a real discussion.
I totally agree, man. And I mean, in this day and age of, ever moving faster technology and social media, and people are constantly in their phones, our opportunities for this person to person contact, being able to look guys in the eye and have a conversation about shit that's really going on, it's very rare.
It is. Yeah, it is. I think a podcast kind of gets back to the roots of just that, that one-on-one conversation. And it obviously also, I think, makes people comfortable to where they will open up. When we have a guest on, we typically get content out of those guests and conversation and things out of those guests that they don't feel comfortable giving in other scenarios. And so that's great too,
Do you have children, Dale?
I actually got a little girl. She's 6 months.
Yeah.
old.
Amazing.
Little Isla. Yeah. So that's new. It's amazing.
That's
You want her
amazing.
to drive cars?
I don't care if she. I mean, I don't not want her to drive, other than the fact that it's very expensive, and I don't know if we could probably invest our money in another area if she wanted to do something else. But she's gonna say, "Hey, I want to do X, Y, and Z," and we're gonna do it. You're gonna want to take them and do whatever they want to do. And just the fact that she would want me to be involved in anything she's doing, it will be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No doubt, man. I have a little girl myself.
Really?
Going to be 7 in December.
Oh, yeah. Everybody says it goes fast.
Fuck, it goes fast.
Too fast.
I'm sitting here at 6 months, though, and I'm like, me and Amy, my wife, we're like, come on, we can't wait for this. We can't wait for that.
Yeah.
I want to be able to what was it like when y'all heard their voice? Like for the, you hear them cooing and on, but when they really get a voice.
I heard, because I listened
It never
to
stops. Once they get it, it never stops.
Yeah, no doubt, dude. No doubt. But I remember I listened to your pod with Joe, and you talk about that.
Yeah.
And I remember the first time hearing my daughter's voice. And I was playing for the Bears at the time, so I was living in Chicago. And my wife was finishing up law school in San Francisco with my daughter at that point was maybe 2, not even quite 2 years old yet. And we were living apart, so I really missed some of those stages. But I remember going to be with my wife and my daughter during the bye week. And the first morning I was back, I woke up and my wife and my daughter were already up, and I could hear this little person's voice. And I couldn't believe that that was my daughter talking.
Yeah.
You know, it was really an incredible moment, man.
I cannot.
You're in for a treat, dude.
Just hearing you talk about it, you can tell how big a deal that is, and that's one of the things that we can't wait. We know we need to be patient. We know we don't need to rush her along and just enjoy the now.
Trust me, it's gonna happen.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, no doubt, no doubt about it, man. Well, something that really struck me, and I'd never heard a guy like yourself, the caliber racer you are, talk about racing, and to hear you talk about how the car grips the road.
Yeah.
And how tight you are to the road. And that first time you ran around the track when your dad called you up and was like, meet me at the raceway, don't ask any questions, just be there. And you're like, I don't know what's going to happen, man.
Yeah.
I guess I'm going to get to do this. And you said it was that first time you were coming down that straightaway at like 190 miles an hour. And you're like, how in the fuck am I going to keep this car on this road going into this turn?
Yeah, I was looking at I've never been on a bigger racetrack than a half mile, which is really a very small track. You're going to run around 90 mile an hour there at those smaller tracks. So I'm going to Talladega. It's a 2.5 mile racetrack, and I'm going down the back straightaway for the first time, and I'm getting up to around 160, 170, 180 mile an hour, and I'm this long back straightaway. So you're looking at the corner, turn 3, and it goes and arcs way off around the corner out of sight, and it just seems so far away, but you can look at it and you're thinking, how's the car going to stay in there? How's the car not going to fly to the track? How is it going to grip? Like, I've never felt this before, and I've never been in this situation before to know that this is going to work. And so physics don't seem like that, if the car would be kept in the track, and when you go into the corner and the force, the G-forces, you kind of go down and to the right into the seat, and you sink into the seat as you load into the corner and then in the banking. And that's when you sense, like, wow, this thing is grabbing this track.
Wow.
It's like got a hold of this racetrack.
Yeah.
And is not letting go.
Yeah.
And it's the most amazing feeling. So
I bet, man.
What's the best car you drive? Glennon, Mercedes?
No, well, yeah, the Mercedes. I had a Mercedes that used to be the pace car for the F1 series that was a very awesome car.
That's sweet.
But, it's I think, our race cars are so set up to be able to get a hold of that racetrack. They got these giant tires, and they'll just get a hold of the racetrack so well, and they'll take the corners extremely fast without really any real concern. But you push them to the limit, and sometimes you go over that limit. I
bet, man. That sounds... Mike, have you ever driven a car 180 miles an hour?
No.
What's the fastest you've ever went, Mike?
I don't know, maybe 130.
Yeah, that's fast enough.
That's pretty fast.
Drag racing.
Right.
That's pretty damn fast.
Yeah, that's quick.
I feel like if I'm in a car going 90, I'm going fast.
That's what's funny, because Mike's talking about going 130 miles an hour. On the highway?
I got pulled over by the cops, too.
Yeah.
I'm nervous and sweating, and the cop is having a conversation with me. He said, why are you nervous for? I said, I'm nervous. I just got pulled over doing 130.
Yeah, no shit.
Hey, don't worry about it. It's okay.
Oh, my God.
Like, oh, God.
I get nervous on the highway going 130.
Yeah.
Whereas on a racetrack, in a closed course, in a car that's supposed to be as safe as it can be, 200 is not a concern. It's weird. Well, driving a car on the highway, though, at 130, I'm like...
You just don't know what's coming out of what's
You
side.
don't, yeah. And you got this little strap, you just... In a race car, you got like a 7-point harness that, you're tightening that damn thing. So
And there's a whole roll cage around you.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
It just,
God.
I mean, the thing's built to protect you.
mentally, you believe that nothing can hurt you.
Sure.
And in a streetcar, it's all the opposite.
It's wild, man. So when you're going that way, because this is really where I want to go, with this conversation with you. But you're in this thing, and you're going 200 miles an hour. And you are you talk about how you're rattling around. I mean, you get into accidents. You've flipped cars.
And I was hearing when he knows to grab the wheel, go slow. You're
Right.
doing it slow.
Yeah, when the car starts flipping, if you don't grab a hold of anything or something, typically, obviously the wheel's right in front of you, so that's the easiest thing to get a hold of. But if you don't grab the wheel, your arms kind of go out because the centrifugal force is trying to throw everything away,
Yeah.
And so your arms just start flailing, and you can see that happen in crashes. And so I learned that on the street, actually. I flipped a pickup truck and learned that my arms would do that when the car starts flipping. So in a race car, I always was pretty cognizant of grabbing that steering wheel when I started to feel the car get light and go up in the air.
Wow.
Yeah.
To feel a 3,000-pound machine get light.
I was never scared. I was always thinking in my mind, I'm never going to be able to explain this to somebody. I'm never going to be able to tell somebody what this is like.
Sure.
And that's it. You feel the car is so damn heavy, but it's flying through the air, and you cannot describe it.
Yeah.
It's the weirdest thing.
It's crazy, man. I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's the frustrating part, I think, about crashing and all that, is trying to tell it to someone who's never wrecked a car, ran a race or anything. It's
sure.
What do you compare it to? Do
you get PTSD from that?
I don't think so.
Is it one of those things like being a surfer attacked by a shark? You just got to get back out in the water as soon as you can.
Yeah, I think once you get So I've had crashes and bad crashes, and when I go to that track or that corner, there's something in the back of your mind that makes you concerned, and you don't perform well until you can succeed, go through that part of the track successfully, or go through that part of the track without it crossing your mind.
Yeah.
So I've done that before. I was racing a race and blew a tire and hit the wall real hard at this one racetrack, and I ran a couple more races there over the next couple of weeks, and my crew chief comes up to me and says, "You're not going to that corner the same ever since you wrecked. You seem to be chopping the entry and trying to avoid trouble." And so I think that happens when you do have crashes or have an accident at a crash or at a track. You kind of have a problem with that track until you can go through there and do well or do something well there.
That makes sense. I mean, shit, I've been in little dingers on the street, and that gives me PTSD. I don't know, man. I don't know if I need to drive anymore. In LA, that's a bad thing. If
LA
you can't
traffic
drive.
is tough, man. I'm telling you.
That's really bad.
It's crazy.
It's bad, dude.
There's no other place like it.
So tell me this. What is the biggest championship that when it's your time to ride, and this particular championship you're really psyched for? Which one is that?
Well, we got a championship race right now happening. I'm in the broadcast booth for NBC, and we're coming down to the last two races of the year, and we're going to decide our champion for the Cup Series in Homestead in 2 weeks. And that's the biggest award and biggest thing you can accomplish in our sport in NASCAR. And I never won the championship at the Cup level. I won 2 Xfinity Series championships, which is kind of like the college level of our sport.
Yes.
But as a broadcaster, as a racer for 20 years, I kind of know what that accomplishment means and how prestigious that is. And can't wait for a couple weeks to be able to crown our champ.
Sweet, man. Yeah. That's exciting. So, rattling around in this death race that you're in, man, what you deal with a lot of injuries.
Yeah,
you get beat up.
Oh yeah. I broke my shoulder blade. I've had injuries like that before, but the worst I think for me has been the concussions. We write about it in the book that I wrote a book called Racing to the Finish, and it's out in stores now. Yeah. And we talk about basically the concussion experience that I had from 2012 all the way up until today. And the mistakes I made, the crashes, the reasons, the different moments in my career where I had these problems, and going to the doctor, getting the treatment. My doctor writes the foreword for the book. My doctor comes in behind a lot of the things that we talk about in the book and sort of gives a technical medical explanation for what was going on in this particular time in my career. And it's just basically Mickey Collins is my doctor in Pittsburgh. He works with the Steelers and the Penguins.
Yeah.
And he helped me twice. He gave me my life back to me, twice when concussions, made life miserable. He fixed the problems that I had and gave me a good quality of life back. And so I feel like there's nothing, what can I do to repay this guy for doing that? What can I do? So he tells me that the best thing I can do is to be open about my experience, and that drives people to him. He says that 2 or 3 people come in his office every week, and they, ask them, how do you find out about us? And he says 2 or 3 people every week say, because of something Dale said in this article or in this video. And so writing this book is a bit of a joint effort between me and him to tell that whole story, and maybe even push more people to make better decisions in those situations that I was in.
What types of treatments did he use to help you recover? Because, I was telling you a little bit about my own story before, but I come from the NFL. I played 6 years as an offensive lineman with the Jags and the Bears. Suffered a handful of concussions throughout my career. And concussions are a huge issue for football players. And, the way that those are dealt with in the league is there's not really, you talked about it a little bit, there's no treatment that the NFL or NFL trainers, doctors prescribe. It's basically a rest and recover type thing,
In 2012, when I got hurt, that was basically it. It was rest and recover. No phones, no electronics, no activity, no going out to places, doing anything. Just rest, and shut down. When I got hurt and went back in 2016, that was scrapped. It was exposure is really kind of what they're about, pushing you into environments that are going to stretch that muscle or
Interesting.
Yeah. So he was all about exposure. The same guy had changed his entire approach in just a short period of time. I had some physical exercises. I had a lot of problems with my vestibular system, and my head movement would make me dizzy. So I did a lot of physical exercises, just moving my head to until they wouldn't create the issues anymore, wouldn't trigger the symptoms anymore. Then he would give me another batch of those. I had some eye problems with gaze stabilization. When I'd walk across the room would bounce. And he gave me, I got some computer programs, wearing these funky glasses, and would work on these computer programs that would really make my eyes work real hard to hold 3D objects in 3D and stuff like that. Just a bunch of stuff that was a bit over my head, but it physically made my eyes hurt doing those exercises, but it made my eyes stronger to where when I walked across the room, an object across the room did not move. I could look at it and hold it as a target.
Wow.
I could watch a bird fly across the sky and watch the whole, watch it. Before I couldn't, I just couldn't stay on it.
Yeah.
And I had mood issues, anxiety. I took medicine for that to suppress the anxiety. I took that for probably a year and a half. And for the most part, that was the treatment that would target the problems that I was having. And it took about 3-4 months before I started seeing progress.
Wow.
Yeah. I had 12 concussions from probably 2013 to 2016. And I hid them from my wife, hid them from my family, hid them from my doctor, hid them from everyone in the sport. And I woke up one day and I just couldn't balance myself.
Wow.
I hadn't crashed in a month, and I got up and out of bed, and I'm like, man, I can't. I'm dizzy, and my eyes something's wrong with my eyes. I didn't even know how to describe it. And each day, like quickly, in a matter of like 3 or 4 days, it got worse and worse and worse to where to walk out of this room, I'd have to hold onto this table and grab the door, and it was
brutal.
It was very bad. I know you probably, or guys that have experienced those type of symptoms. And
how do you wean yourself off the drugs?
The drugs were very low doses, very low dosage, and I didn't really appreciate taking them anyways. As far as just chemicals or a drug is not something I really enjoy doing. But
what types of meds were you on?
I don't really even know the name of it. It was just an anxiety suppression type of drug.
So they're psych meds.
Yeah, and they would make me completely not like anxiety free. It was incredible because everyone walks around with a little sliver of anxiety,
no doubt,
right? And I was anxiety free for the first time in my entire life, and I was thinking, this is like the best version of myself. This is like
good.
The real potential that I have as an individual.
Yeah.
And so I wanted that, but I didn't want to have to take that pill to do it.
Yeah.
And so ever since then, I've kind of, I've tried to manage my anxiety just on my own, but
do you meditate?
No, I don't meditate.
No. That's really helped me, man.
I bet.
It's a big deal for me.
Yeah.
Something else, this is part of what we do here is we educate about things like cannabis and CBD.
Mm-hmm.
We have a little video that I'm going to play for you in a second. It was the Tyson Holistic Summit that we put together as a handful of NFL players, MMA, UFC guys. Mike was there, of course, some NHL players, all talking about how cannabis and CBD has had a positive effect on our healing, dealing with things like concussions and, getting off opiates and all that stuff. Our federal government has a patent on cannabinoids as neuroprotectants and antioxidants. So when you talk about actual chemical compounds that can help us deal with these types of injuries, we've got something here. It's a natural plant, which is pretty fascinating. Have you ever tried CBD?
I have never tried it. I was actually reading about it a lot over the last probably 3 months. Me and my wife and I take ashwagandha and
that's great stuff.
It is really good. And so I was reading about other sort of alternatives.
What's ashwagandha?
It's like a root.
It's a root.
Ayurvedic root that helps with all kinds of things. It's an adaptogen. So it helps your body get into homeostasis, helps tells you when, different hormones are needed, etc. Keeps you balanced.
It made me feel, it made me feel like I could handle stressful situations with less anxiety. And when something that didn't really need to sort of get under my skin happened, it didn't get under my skin.
Right.
And
totally.
And that was what I was probably wanting the most from the ashwagandha, and that seems to be what it's doing for me. But
no doubt,
it gives me a bit of a energy that I like.
Yeah, it sort of gives you this vitality.
Exactly.
Yeah,
it's hard. It's very hard for me to put it into words
because it's not like coffee, like caffeine.
No.
It's not energizing like that, but it gives you this very substantial energy.
And there's no side effects to it at all.
It's great. Helps you sleep.
But I was reading about CBD when I was reading about ashwagandha because I was, obviously I'm going to take this stuff. I want to know what it does and what the effects are to it. And but I've heard good things.
Yeah, very good things. Well, check out this video. It's pretty quick, but it's cool. It's got some, there we go.
Oh, yeah.
Here we go.
That's great.
Los Angeles, May 31st,
Very good.
2018. Tyson Holistics Health and Wellness Summit. Hosted by Eben Britton.
Hello, everybody. My name is Mike. I've been fighting over 20 years of my life.
The injuries started piling up.
First injury I had was a concussion.
Pretty serious brain injury.
Vertigo that was starting to happen early on in my career.
99% of the guys in an NFL locker room are on highly toxic prescription drugs.
Tylenol at noon, the Advil at 4, Tylenol at 6, Benadryl, Xanax.
Pain pills.
I went to the doctor for prescription painkillers. Then I got hooked on that, sent me to rehab.
A downward spiral of pharmaceuticals that left me retired at the age of 28.
Tons and tons and tons of drugs to treat individual problems, and We're not getting healthier, we're not getting better.
The opioid epidemic is just reaching astronomical proportions. As a physician, we need to learn. We need to better ourselves for our patients.
I was never a cannabis user. It just wasn't my thing. 5 months of bouncing off the walls and pain and insomnia and headaches and anxiety. I just gave in. It's okay, I'll try it.
I'm a big fan of it. I'll stake my life on it.
It's been a great equalizer to the pain in my life. I've been really dealing with a lot of pain since my career.
And it really changed my life. Then I realized also all the information, all the pain, everything. It worked with everything. So now I'm a big advocate.
My first experience really is with the copper gel ice with the CBD, and I've been using that.
You know, cannabis is a 10,000-year-old medicine. For 70 plus years of propaganda and misinformation that have stigmatized and demonized this plant, you know, we're really starting to unravel that through science.
The endocannabinoid system is activated upon brain injury.
And the whispers are over.
I think that if medical marijuana is available, then it's up to the individual team doctor. If you tell me it worked for you and it worked for others that you know, then we should find a way to get that defined and made official, and then proceed to educating team docs. And I think all of the leagues are now appropriately focused on player rehabilitation in the case of injury, player nutrition. This should be a part of that conversation. So now I think it's up to the sports leagues to anticipate where this is going and maybe lead the way.
0 concussion symptoms, haven't looked back and was able to win a world title.
I have my life back through cannabis.
And I probably wouldn't be as healthy-minded as I am today.
My football career was the most important thing to me. I would not jeopardize that for anything. And I still used cannabis because, to me, that made me a better football player.
Speaking our truth about what we've been through and what cannabis can do as a medicine for athletes.
I think it's just time to take ownership of our own health.
Move away from the stigma, move forward together. And it can really change healthcare in this country and perhaps the world.
Thank you so much. It's really been a pleasure.
So that was a pretty cool thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's important work you guys are doing, man.
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. Well, I mean, shoot, man, is there anything? I think we've had a hell of a conversation here.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you coming, man.
Well,
seriously.
Thanks. Yeah. I mean, it's
good stuff.
Thanks, Mike. It's been great to hang out and talk to you guys, and certainly appreciate the opportunity to come on here, talk about the book, and always learning. It's been educational for me, and hope to.
Where you live at?
I live in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where we
Nice.
came from yesterday, and the race this weekend's in Phoenix, so that's where we'll be this weekend.
Okay.
In the broadcast booth, and look forward to it.
Nice, man.
Yeah,
you
thank
just
you.
came to LA to do Rogan and Tyson.
Do a little bit of book meeting, man. You guys are helping me out.
Hell yeah, man. Anything else you want to say about the book?
Yeah, it's just racing to the finish. It's for sale wherever books are sold.
Awesome.
Yeah, if it's got kind of a couple different demographics. Obviously, someone who's ever had a concussion, this would be a great read. If you have somebody in your family or know someone who's dealing with that, certainly it could teach you a lot about what that person's dealing with. And obviously, I think my fans, I retired a little early, and they had a lot of questions, and I wasn't forthcoming with all that information, and this will spell that out to them.
That's awesome, man. Thank you.
Good stuff, man.
Thank you, bud.
Mike, another great one. Mike, thanks for coming.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, man.
A lot of
You
fun.
didn't talk much, Mike.
Well, you know what? I just let my man here do all the talking.
I hear you.
It was his experience, but I can tell you this, Mike and Eben. I mean, the things that we've learned about this, and I was living this experience with him. We couldn't understand what was really going on in his head because he was keeping a lot of things secret. And but in him coming out and telling the stories, the one thing that's been very compelling for all of us, and I think that motivated him, was that all the people that were not in racing necessarily, but in other sports, or even not even in sports, that we realized that we're dealing with, some sort of head injuries or concussions or whatever. And so I think that some of the stuff that his doctor, just in dealing with, started out as the athletes in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Now he's seeing everybody. I mean, we go everywhere we go. There's people going, "Hey, who was your doctor, Dale?" I've got a 16-year-old girl that had a softball injury or something like that. And Mickey Collins is seeing them all. You know, it's not just professional athletes, but there have been other professional athletes. But so that's been sort of the motivation, and I think the thing that made that book necessary. And I couldn't have predicted that when it was happening. I don't think he could have either.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Well, I think it's such an important message of how much of an impact you can make when you speak your truth.
Yeah.
And you telling your story, man, who you are. For a guy like you to come out and share this message, it's fucking huge, man.
Yeah. Well, I feel like I had to tell the truth to be able to, for it to make that impact that it could make for someone. And I just I hope it helps somebody. And I'm gonna be on this conversation for the rest of my life. I'll be on this wagon for the rest of my life, trying to do whatever I can to pay Mickey back and give people opportunities to see him.
That's awesome. Well, the podcast.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening, guys. We are out.